Dear Diary, this week's entry concerns the displacement of the Native Americans. A particular matter that I had never taken the time to contemplate occurred at the Daily Planet when an unexpected visitor entered our newsroom, disrupting the usual hustle and bustle. This visitor was a Native American scientist with a determined look in his eyes. He had come to deliver a message, not only to me, Lois Lane, but also to my colleagues, Clark Kent, our editor-in-chief, Perry White, and the League of Nations. He insisted that Manhattan, our beloved Metropolis, rightfully belonged to his people and should be returned to them. He challenged the commonly held belief that Manhattan was sold for a mere $24 worth of trinkets. He presented a document that proved that the natives, referred to as the Manhattan in historical documents, had not been aware that they were selling their cherished island paradise. Instead, they believed they were merely allowing the Dutch to share their land.
And I still say Manhattan rightfully belongs to my people.
Possibly, but just what do you expect us to do about it?
You have a newspaper. Publish the truth. Have the island vacated immediately.
It's fantastic.
Why, that's ridiculous.
Ridiculous? Maybe modern science will make you think differently.
I've never heard anything so absurd. You know, from the look in his eyes, I'd almost believe he was in earnest.
While my colleagues at the Daily Planet dismissed the Native American scientist as crazy and his threats as empty, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this story. Ignoring their skepticism, I discreetly followed the scientist as he made his way to a motorboat waiting nearby. Hidden from view, I trailed him to a deserted fishing house by the water. Inside the fishing house, I stumbled upon an inconspicuous elevator, one that led to an enigmatic underwater capsule.
Come ahead, Miss Lane. You wouldn't want to miss this story, I'm sure.
It was here that the scientist noticed my presence, catching my reflection in the elevator's glass. To my surprise, he calmly invited me to follow him, promising a story that defied imagination. Intrigued and unable to resist, I accepted his offer. As we descended into the depths within the capsule, the man offers me a seat. Then activates a button that secures my arms and legs to the chair as a precautionary measure.
Just a precautionary measure.
I suppose my reputation precedes me. He knows that I am the type who would destroy his machinery at the first chance I get. As most of these mad scientists have come to learn, Lois Lane don't play that. The scientist, now at the controls, initiated his earthquake machine. A surge of electricity coursed through one of the wires, delving deep into the bedrock beneath the city.
Now, Miss Lane, get ready for the greatest story of your career.
With a series of ingenious devices, our villain, which I dub by the name of Dr. Manhattan, initiated the electric earthquake, causing the very ground beneath Manhattan to tremble and quake. The resulting explosion sent shockwaves throughout Manhattan, plunging it into chaos and panic. Buildings swayed perilously, and panicked citizens fled in all directions.
This looks like a job for Superman.
Later, my colleague Clark Kent told me he watched in awe as Superman took to the skies, responding to the imminent disaster. Superman dove into the East River, where he discovers the cables and proceeds to try to undo them. He had to disable them one by one. Have I told you, dear diary, that after each disastrous excursion, I try to interview Superman, even if he only answers one question? I found out that he cannot breathe underwater for too long. That is another of his vulnerabilities. Superman continued to dismantle the cables. Eventually, he traced the wires to the underwater capsule and extracted them from their base, triggering explosions that obliterated the machine. As the water filled the capsule, Dr. Manhattan took the elevator to the surface, leaving me trapped as the water slowly rose. Superman spotted the elevator and captured the villain at the top, but he told him that I was trapped.
A girl is still down there.
Superman, who had no clue that I was mixed in this situation, raced back down to rescue me. Meanwhile, our villain loaded the elevator with dynamite and sent it down after us. In the nick of time, Superman found me and rescued me, and with my arms wrapped around Superman's steely neck and shoulders, he apprehended Dr. Manhattan by easily lifting his motorboat with one hand and me in his other arm.
You know, Lois, the old island looks just as good as ever.
That's right, Clark. Thanks to Superman.
I was fascinated by this Native American mad scientist. Unlike the other mad scientists Superman and I have encountered before, this one stood out amidst a sea of typical counterparts. He had a unique and compelling motive rooted in history and a quest for justice. He aimed to reclaim Manhattan for his people, whom he believed had been wrongfully dispossessed of their land. However, his approach was marred by the use of violence, which never truly resolves anything. So, my dear diary, what are your thoughts on this complex matter? Does the island of Manhattan still belong to its original people? I wish I knew your thoughts. Until then, yours, Lois Lane.